I love the Kinks, and I love primitive electric guitar sounds. So today, we're going to explore Dave Davies' setup on the very influential early Kinks hits, All Day and All of the Night, and yeah, of course, You Really Got Me. It's a funky setup. Hey, by the way, I'm Eric Haugen. Check the description box below for the information about all the sound tools that I'm using today, live streams and more on Patreon, and my deep dive courses. It's all on my website. Now, of course, it should be noted that, yeah, Dave Davies wasn't the first person to experiment with electric guitar distortion. Now, really, this should be a separate video, but we can find earlier examples of overdrive going all the way back to the late 1940s with Western swing lap steel players and early electric blues artists like T-Bone Walker and Elmore James. And into the 1950s with the early rock and roll of artists like Chuck Berry. But most directly, influentially, I think that's a word, Link Ray Rumble. We're going to talk a little bit more about that later. Dave is one of those people who is absolutely not like everybody else. His guitar tone is always unique, and that's definitely something that sets him apart. And in terms of playing style, it's really all about attitude and tone with a, well, for lack of a better word, pugilistic sense of rhythm. It's well documented that the Kinks were a very scrappy band, and yeah, that's in the guitar tone also. On those early singles, Dave had a Harmony Meteor, which is similar to the Harmony I've borrowed today from Twin House Music. This guitar is for sale right now. But anyway, it's a hollow body with gold foil pickups. Now, I have made a separate video all about gold foil pickups, but the brief is this. They are actually single coil pickups, and these old ones are wildly inconsistent. But when they're good, they're really good. And here's a vid from Kevin at Lawler Pickups to just talk about the construction of gold foils and what makes them unique.
Hey everyone, I'm Kevin. I'm the production manager and a designer here at Lawler Pickups. I'm gonna take a minute to talk about the gold foil, one of our coolest and best sounding products that we offer. It starts with a very thin bobbin and it gets wound with thin wire to produce a coil like so. Then we use a rubberized ceramic magnet like this. It's almost like a refrigerator magnet, and that goes onto a coil plate. And the final subassembly that has all of those parts together has screws. As you can see, they're sort of off to the side of the coil and the magnet, so they actually play a very little role in the overall production of the tone, but they've got an aesthetic appeal. And also the cover looks really cool. That has foil that sits underneath, and it has rivets that pass through, and they get hammered into a base plate underneath. We also make this base plate in a style that can be used with a soap bar ring. So if you have a guitar with P90s, you can get that brilliant shimmering gold foil sound.
Fuzz pedals did exist at the time of those early recordings. The Maestro Fuzz tone came out in '62, but really didn't become popular until '65, when the Rolling Stones used it on Satisfaction. So mostly back then, guitarists would just turn their amp up and see what happened. Now, the amp that Dave used for those recordings is an interesting footnote, the Alnico AC55. It had 2 mic inputs and a gramophone input, which means it probably wasn't intended for electric guitar, but the tube layout is similar to a Vox AC10 or AC15, as in it has 3 ECC 83s, which are 12AX7s in the preamp, and 2 EL84s in the output with an EZ81 tube rectifier. The speaker is really weird in those amps. It's a 4x6 elliptical speaker. By the way, there is a dude who makes an updated, modern version of the AC55, Mitch Colby at Colby Amplifiers, and he helped me with the research for this vid. Story goes that Dave opened up the back of the AC55 and sliced that little 4x6 speaker where he could get to it, kind of from the center to the edge. So definitely what you're hearing on those songs is a sliced speaker, which is similar to what Link Ray did in Rumble, but apparently Link Ray in Rumble used a pencil to poke little holes in the speaker. But in both cases, you're hearing a speaker that has been intentionally destroyed. But in the case of the Kinks, there's another layer here. They ran the external speaker out from the Alnico into a Vox AC30, and I want to make this very clear, do not do that. You cannot do that without blowing up your amp usually. So that made me scratch my head about how they possibly did that without frying both those amps, because those signals, like a speaker level signal, is way higher than a guitar input level signal. And that's where I got confused, and that's where I had to email a friend. And yeah, that's where Mitch Colby comes into play. Here's what he said. He theorizes that someone took the external speaker output and patted the signal down with a 2-resistor voltage divider so that the input of the AC30 wouldn't be crushed. I don't know exactly what that means, but I guess some kind of a load box, something to take all that energy and bring it way down back to a level that the AC30 could take. One more time, don't do that at home. Just don't. Do not run a speaker out into the input of an amplifier. You will break something permanently. But anyway, to review Dave's setup. Harmony Meteor, which is a hollow body with gold foil pickups, really sounds like the nasal bridge position pickup. Into the Elpico AC55 that had the slash speaker, and then somehow a Vox AC30. But wait, let's think about some of the other stuff that we're hearing there, like the studio and the recording equipment. I gotta thank audio engineering historian David Taylor for this information. Here's what he told me. The Kinks recorded almost all their mid-60s tracks at Pi Studio 2 in London. It had a home-built, tube-driven 4-track mixing console. We can see engineer Peter Thurlow at the mixer there. Here's some low-res pics of what the room looked like. And here we have chief engineer Bob Auger at the board in Studio 1. It's likely he was on the job for those hits. And again, a big part of what we hear on those early Kinks songs, and coincidentally, the early Who songs, same studio, same producer, is the room and the board. I'm not going to slash a speaker, nor am I going to feed one amp into another amp. So here's how I got my sound today. Yep, I'm using this cool old Harmony. This is for sale at Twin House Music. Sounds like the bridge position gold foil pickup to me. Going into the car Skylark, which has a built-in attenuator, and it also has a little switch that lets me change which mode I'm in. And I think the high watt mode sounds voxier. You can see my settings there. Not a lot of bass. Not a lot of bass on these crispy old recordings. Going into my SSL2 interface, and then into Logic, and then I did kind of boost the high mids just a little bit, or maybe just the mids, depending on what you think of them as being. And those old recordings, they didn't tend to put the mic as close as I'm putting it. But this room is not a great room for kind of room mic situations here. This is what the room sounds like. You know, that's not great. Also, though, that's the camera mic, so, you know, here, wait. Let's use this mic as my room mic. Honestly, right now, I have no idea what that sounds like. Maybe it sounds cool. I don't know. Did I do anything else? Oh, yeah, the only other thing I did to try and imitate the kind of crispy, crunchy board sound of those old vintage boards was I am using Soundtoys Decapitator on top of all that to also add some more tape crunch. But you heard what it sounds like in the room. It's close, but, you know, it's impossible to sound like that. Let's address one little piece of gossip about these songs, and that is whether or not Jimmy Page played the guitar solos on All Day and All of the Night, and You Really Got Me. Is long time been like a rumor that he did, because he was a session player at that time and definitely was on those tracks, but apparently only as rhythm guitar because Ray wanted to focus on singing. So yes, that is Dave taking those solos. It's one of those things that for a long time, you know, we're like, well, we knew Jimmy Page was kind of part of the British wrecking crew of session musicians, and we knew that Shel Talmy used him. And so people just assumed those were Jimmy Page, me included. But even Page himself has said, no, that's not me. And in fact, he was kind of salty about it. It's like, that's not me. That doesn't sound like me. So we used to all think it was Jimmy, but it's not. I have a couple of pedals that I think might get that sound. So let's clean the amp back up. So, you know, now we got a nice clean sound. You know, that's just clean and the amp sounds good. We have the Strymon Deco. The tape saturation mode of the Strymon Deco is a good, like, raspy, kind of farty, old school overdrive. Let's see. Kind of close. And definitely, you know, with this one, I'm not actually digging in that hard. It's more like a whip motion. Although I think there's not a third hit there. It's like, it's kind of like that. It's like in between. What's it in? And then that sounds pretty good to me. And I'm not going to teach the solo to this one, but here's what I will say. You know, it's G blues. The main thing being like, you know, just be violent about it, and yeah, don't stop, because I think I did something to the like of. And that just goes up the octave. Now, he does a lick like a one of those. I think I did a. So that's definitely not what Dave did on the record. That's what Eric did. Okay, now the other pedal I have down below is a fuzz face, a germanium fuzz face modified by my friend Mike at Acid Guitar Electronics. Now, the cool thing about fuzz faces is that, sure, you know, full out, it's a lot, but I don't know if you can see this. If I roll the volume back, it kind of reduces the fuzz. So let's see if that sounds kind of like it. It sounds kind of like it, but a little too woolly. Still a cool sound, though. If you enjoyed this video, stay tuned for next week. I'm going to do a deep dive on the stuff past 1965. All those great Dave Davies hooks, riffs, and leads. By the way, if you enjoyed this video, yeah, like, subscribe, and share. Costs you nothing, and it helps me out a lot when people do that. One more time, how my business works. Patreon is where I have all my backing tracks, live Q&A seminars, and more. I update that every week, and I also make deep dive courses with my friends at TrueFire. You can check it all out on my website. The links are all down below. As Bill and Ted would say, be excellent to each other. That includes yourself. See you next week.